In July, the US government spent £230 billion, about $291 billion, more than it collected. That's not just a big number, it's a staggering gap that would be unthinkable for any household or business. This shortfall is a clear signal that something fundamental isn't working in the way the nation manages its finances. This monthly deficit is a warning sign, not just a statistic. It's a red flag waving over the entire economy, hinting at deeper issues that can't be ignored or wished away. Imagine your household. If you earn £3,000 but spend £3,500, you're in the red. Over time that gap grows, and soon you're borrowing just to keep the lights on. The government faces the same basic math, only on a much larger scale. The government's numbers are just much bigger. But the consequences, rising debt, higher interest payments, and less flexibility for the future, are very real. July's gap wasn't caused by a crisis or emergency spending. There was no war, no natural disaster, no sudden economic shock to blame. It's the result of persistent structural issues. Problems that have been building for years, quietly growing in the background. The main culprit? The relentless growth of mandatory spending, especially interest on the national debt. As the debt grows, so do the interest payments, eating up more and more of the budget. This isn't a one-off event. It's part of a long-term trend. Year after year, the deficit keeps growing, and the hole gets deeper. The choices made in Washington about taxes and spending shape the economy for everyone. Every decision, every policy has a ripple effect that touches businesses, families, and future generations. A deficit this size forces tough questions. Are taxes too low? Are we collecting enough to pay for what we promise? Is spending out of control? Are there programs that need reform? Or are we simply living beyond our means as a nation? What does this mean for ordinary people? It can lead to higher taxes, reduced government services, or even inflation that makes everyday life more expensive. These aren't partisan questions, they're about the nation's future. No matter your politics, the numbers affect us all. Understanding this deficit is the first step to understanding the economic challenges ahead. Only by facing the facts can we hope to find real solutions for a sustainable future. To truly understand the July deficit, we need to look beyond the headline number and break it down into its core components: revenue versus outlays. The deficit isn't just a single figure. It's the result of a complex balancing act between what the government brings in and what it spends. Revenue comes from a variety of sources, with taxes being the largest. This includes income taxes paid by individuals, corporate taxes from businesses, payroll taxes that fund Social Security and Medicare, and even tariffs collected on imported goods. Every dollar collected helps fund the government's obligations. On the other side, outlays cover a wide range of expenses. These include national defense, Social Security payments to retirees, Medicare and Medicaid for healthcare, and, increasingly, the interest the government must pay on its growing debt. Each of these categories is essential, but together, they add up quickly. In July, government revenues did see a modest increase, partly due to higher tariffs and steady tax collections. However, spending surged at a much faster pace, widening the gap between what the government takes in and what it spends. The real challenge lies in mandatory spending. Programs like Social Security, Medicare, and especially interest payments on the national debt. These costs are set by law and grow automatically each year, regardless of the state of the economy or changes in policy. Interest on the debt has now become the fastest growing expense in the federal budget. As the government borrows more and interest rates rise, these payments consume a larger share of resources, leaving less room for other priorities like education, infrastructure, or research. This situation isn't the result of reckless new spending sprees. Instead, it's the product of decades of policy decisions, demographic changes, and the recent rise in interest rates. The effects are cumulative, building up over many years. As both the national debt and interest rates climb, the government's interest payments balloon as well, putting even more pressure on the rest of the budget and making it harder to fund other important programs. Simply cutting so-called waste, or trimming discretionary spending, won't solve this structural imbalance. The real drivers are built into the system and require deeper, more fundamental changes. Ultimately, the deficit is a symptom of much deeper, long-term fiscal challenges that will require thoughtful solutions and tough choices for the future. Some argue tariffs can fix the deficit. Tax imports boost revenue, protect jobs, but the numbers don't add up. Tariffs brought in a few billion, while spending, especially on interest, rose by much more. It's like bailing out a sinking ship with a teaspoon. Plus, tariffs raise prices for consumers, hitting families hardest. The focus on tariffs is a distraction from the real drivers of debt. The July deficit isn't about a minor revenue bump, it's about unstoppable spending growth. Real solutions require confronting the structure of government spending and taxes. Tariffs are a political talking point, not a fiscal fix. The real story is exploding interest payments on the national debt. For years, low rates kept borrowing costs manageable. That's over. As rates rise, the cost to service debt soars. July's biggest spending jump was interest. This isn't optional, it's a legal obligation. Old cheap debt is replaced by new expensive debt, locking in higher costs. More borrowing means more interest, creating a vicious cycle. Every pound spent on interest is one less for infrastructure, research, or healthcare. We're now borrowing just to pay interest, a warning sign of fiscal instability. The July deficit is a wake-up call. Interest costs are becoming unsustainable. Without action, this path only gets riskier. A £230 billion deficit isn't just a Washington problem, it hits home. Heavy government borrowing pushes up interest rates for everyone. Mortgages, car loans, credit cards. Higher rates make it harder for families to buy homes or for businesses to grow. Persistent deficits can shake investor confidence, weaken the currency, and drive up prices for imports. Inflation squeezes household budgets and erodes wages. Eventually, today's borrowing means higher taxes or fewer services for future generations. The deficit is a bill that will come due, one way or another. It's not just numbers, it's your financial future. Fiscal choices today shape the economy your children will inherit. Fixing a deficit this size means making tough, often unpopular choices, on both spending and revenue. The scale of the challenge is enormous, and there are no easy answers. Every option comes with consequences that ripple through the economy and touch the lives of everyday people. Cutting so-called waste isn't enough. Real, lasting savings require reforming the largest and most expensive programs like Social Security, Medicare, and Defense. These programs make up the bulk of federal spending, and even small changes can have a big impact on millions of Americans who rely on them. These changes are politically difficult and deeply personal, since they affect the financial security and well-being of millions. Politicians face intense pressure from voters and interest groups, making reform a daunting task. On the revenue side, raising taxes or closing loopholes could help, but that means reconsidering popular deductions and credits that many families depend on. Every tax change sparks debate about fairness and economic impact. Realistically, a balanced approach is needed. One that combines modest entitlement reforms with thoughtful tax changes. Only by working together across party lines can leaders craft solutions that are both effective and fair. New revenue sources like a carbon tax or a value-added tax are also options on the table. These could broaden the tax base and help address long-term fiscal needs, but they come with their own set of challenges and controversies. There are no painless solutions. Every option has trade-offs, and every decision means weighing competing priorities. The path forward will require careful consideration and a willingness to accept some discomfort for the greater good. Any serious fix will require shared sacrifice and honest debate. Citizens, lawmakers, and experts must come together to discuss the realities and make informed choices about the nation's future. The deficit won't shrink without challenging our assumptions about what government should do and how we're willing to pay for it. It's a conversation that demands openness and courage. Stability demands action, not slogans. The sooner we face these choices, the better prepared we'll be to secure a stable financial future for generations to come. The big debate: austerity or investment. Austerity means cutting spending and raising taxes now to restore confidence and avoid crisis. But harsh cuts can slow growth or trigger recession, making deficits worse. Others argue for smart investments, infrastructure, education, green tech, that boost long-term growth even if it means short-term deficits. The key is borrowing for productive investment, not just to pay for the past. July's deficit, driven by interest, shows the danger of borrowing for yesterday's bills. The real choice: invest in the future or keep paying for the past. Fiscal policy isn't just about numbers, it's about priorities. The deficit debate isn't just for experts, it's about your future. Policy choices on taxes and spending reflect our values and shape society. Your engagement matters. Would you trade higher taxes for better services, or accept less government for lower taxes? Ask tough questions of leaders. Demand real answers, not easy promises. A well-informed public is the best check on reckless policy. The July deficit is a clear signal. The current path can't last. Ignoring it only makes the fix harder later. Now's the time to get involved, learn, and speak up. The future is built by the choices we make. Your voice counts.